Hello, my name is Justin Bright, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program version 1.8.1 in my next small step RP-1 career mode playthrough. And we are picking up pretty much right where we left off. We had just put Lunar station into orbit around the moon. Nice low orbit, about 150-ish kilometers, and the idea is now we are going to send up an Apollo spacecraft to rendezvous with it and try to accomplish two different missions. First, the Lunar Space Station mission, which requires us to hang out for 30 days, the 30-day milestone, and also we have an Apollo just orbit the moon type contract. So let's get to that and see how we do, shall we? All right, we are just one night away from the launch to the moon of Johnny Flores, Wanda Riley, and Stanley Wood. A new engineer, but Johnny Flores and Stanley Wood have been around the moon once or twice, and they know what this is all about. And we are launching on top of the redesigned Paladin 4 Apollo launch vehicle, which is upgraded to the full 10-meter variant. We have ignition and lift off with the 4 mighty F1 engines. So yeah, this is very similar to the cramped design that I had before, but it uses instead of a 2J2 engine second stage, it has the full-on 4 J2s, which is just lovely. So yeah, this is our ride to the moon, and this is actually, I guess, the last time I'll be doing this, because by the time that I want to do another one of these, we're gonna have the no, we've already got that. So this is the last time we're going to be launching this particular Apollo variant. We're going to be moving to the Block 3 Apollo. And what the heck? This is just like this bright glowing cloud. I thought I turned engine light off, so I don't know why this is so... I don't know why that's so ridiculous. But anyways, yeah, so this is the last time we'll be using that particular capsule on top. We'll be upgrading to the Block 3 module and all of that stuff, but yeah, so we are dipping on down. I've had some trouble. Yeah, it's correcting itself downward quite a bit because I've had some trouble with the insulation on the Apollo service module melting and causing that to explode, which is not great. Oops, kind of like this, huh? Wow, saved by the bell on that one, I guess. Man, I think I was not supposed to put MLI layers on this thing, or maybe fewer of them. Okay, well, I'll take that as a lesson because I have to redesign this darn thing anyways, but we are coming up out of the atmosphere, thank goodness. And I even had to put myself on a much shallower trajectory because I brought this down to 0.3 degrees booster pitch rate to try to ameliorate that issue. But yeah, wow, okay. I'm not sure if that's actually something that the Apollo had, was the insulation layers, but it definitely wanted to catch fire as we were launching this vehicle. But looks like we are doing well otherwise. We've got the 4 J2s, they're rocking out. That is just getting more and more reliable as I use it more and more. I would love to use other stuff. Like, that's one of the reasons why I'm really looking forward to this next big batch of rocketry technology, is because I'd like to change up what I'm doing, because I've kind of fallen into this like, this is starting to finally have the silhouette of the real Apollo rockets, the real Saturn rockets, which is nice, but I don't want to only be launching Saturn V's. Like, that's not what I want my game to be, is just launching the one rocket over and over again. Like, very much in general, I do enjoy having a stable of rockets that I use for all purposes. Like, having rockets that I use for stuff is wonderful and fantastic, but I don't want it to be just the one rocket for everything, which might happen with Apollo. So it's what the heck is this? Is that the debris? Like a weird spot. It made me think there was something wrong with like there was a piece of dirt on my monitor. But yeah, I want to use more things and do some more innovative stuff. I may or may not. I will probably not make any Russian engines, or sorry, not Russian engines. I'll probably not make any Russian launch vehicles, but I may try to make just some interesting and different launch vehicles using the pieces that we have unlocked. and cut off, and we are now moving on with the upper stage. Yeah, so there we go. That is this is our ride to the moon, the Apollo style. So this should cut us off with plenty of Delta V remaining to get us out in the direction of the moon, and then the Apollo service module is going to be able to do everything it needs to do to get it back home afterwards. So that is just fabulous. And hopefully we are going to have all of the life support and so forth that we need, but we'll check on that once we get up into orbit. And there we go. We are now in orbit around Earth with our S4B or whatever upper stage that is going to get us out to the moon. So there we go. Our actual final target is Lunar Station, which has a little box around it. Maybe it's from the contract, from Waypoint Manager or something. But that is our destination. So let's go ahead and actually set that as the target. And there we go. That is going to bring us down into the correct place to start our rendezvous with Lunar Station, which should be not too bad once we get out there. All right, we are warping our way around. Wanda Riley appears to be having just a fantastic time. At least one of us is wearing a helmet. Not sure why she's wearing a helmet, but the other two aren't. It seems to be position related as far as where they are in the Apollo capsule. But we are ulging up. Very unstable. There we go. And we are off towards the moon. Fantastic. So yeah, there's obviously not a great analogy for a real Apollo mission for this particular mission that I am running. But this is like the Apollo 8 mission where they went out to orbit the moon and then come back. That is basically that mission profile, except we are going to be doing our orbiting of the moon at a space station that we have put there. So we are going to be heading out and trying to get to Lunar Station when we arrive at the moon. Fingers crossed that that all works the way that we hope it does, but I really don't see any problems. Famous last words, I guess, but this is a relatively straightforward mission that we are running, and so I am hopeful that we are going to be able to get through this with a minimum of fuss, and then finally we will have the money that we need to really start moving forward with things, because we've been a little bit stymied with the fact that we are running out of cash. Like, this cost me 170,000 funds or so to get to this point where we are now, having launched this, because remember, we took a contract that got us up to a little bit more than 400,000 funds, and I haven't built anything between now and then. I haven't unlocked any research, nothing. I've just been doing operating costs and rollout costs of this particular rocket, and that has taken us down to 234,000 funds. So it is very expensive for us to operate our space program. All right, so there we go. That should do it. We're going to need to change our trajectory just slightly with RCS, but that is just fine. What I can do is push this in so that the S4B impacts the moon and removes itself as debris. And there we go, and we are now pulling ourselves out of the outside of the fairing shroud, slowly moving on out. Very, very slowly moving out. There we... very, very slowly moving on out. There we go. So now we are out and we are free, and the Apollo spacecraft is ready to make its transit to the moon. Very, very cool. So let's make sure that all of our systems and life support and everything else are ready to roll. But first, let's, I think, just point ourselves retrograde, because we're going to have to push ourselves, like, retrograde to our current orbit. But I want to be away from the freaking... Here. I've just pushed myself slightly out of the way of the our upper stage here. And now, there we go. Now I can just turn and do what we got to do here. So, no problem. Cool. So yeah, I'm just burning our RCS retrograde just a bit so that we can get to a place where we are not going to impact the moon. That is preferable to impacting it for our astronauts. And there we go. We are just touching the orbit of Lunet Station around the moon, and so we will then be able to do some fun and interesting things, such as shoop, bring that on down, and boop, there we go. So we can do something like this to rendezvous with the station. Separation of 2.1 kilometers with relative speed less than 200 meters per second. So this is going to be like just a tiny amount of our fuel, which is great. So that's perfect. Exactly what we were hoping for. So let's go ahead and extend our high gain antenna. Make sure all of our life support systems are spun up and ready to roll. Food, electric charge, water, oxygen. Got 10 days of lithium hydrogen and lithium hydroxide. We have 17 days, 10 of liquid hydrogen, 11 of liquid oxygen. But in about 4 days, we are going to cease at least some of that. And one of the reasons why I wanted to put MLI layers on this is because I would like this liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen to last for the time that we are going to be docked with Lunet Station. So we are going to see how well that works. I don't know if it's going to work well. Holy crap, why am I using VHF? That's a mistake. I don't think I have anything that communicates back using VHF. Is this using... Okay, this is using S, but it's tech level 4. Man, what the heck? I look at old designs that I've done and I just wonder, like, what weird person has put this whole thing together? Like, what was I doing back then? Like, wait, no, it was me. It was me the whole time that was doing the stupid. But anyways, that's one thing that I'm looking forward to in the future, is going to be able to like redo a lot of my designs with all the new technology that we have put together, because I've been kind of doing that thing I've told you guys before about the phenomenon where I will spend like real life weeks and months in between sessions, and then like I'll build something and then in a very long time I will revisit it. Batteries are getting low. Why are my batteries getting low? Oh my dear. It's because my freaking... Oh, I think I know what's happening. Dump the water. There you go. Okay, fix the fuel cell issue, which is not really an issue, but whatever. But yeah, so like I spend a bit of real life time in between missions, and sometimes I'll even like update like RP-0 and everything else in between here and there, and then I'll like come back to it and be like, what the heck happened here? And then just realize it was me. I did it before, back when it made sense, and now I guess it doesn't make sense, but whatever. So is what it is as far as that's concerned, but we are just about to the moon and ready to make our approach. So we are just about to enter the sphere of influence of the moon. Fantastic. And thankfully this high gain antenna with the S-band is making it so that we have no problem communicating. I was a little bit worried because I had the internal radio set to VHF for whatever reason, but I do have UHF here. Where did I see VHF? Oh, it's VHF on the service module. Interesting. I didn't know there was an antenna on the service module. That's my fault for not paying attention to that. So yeah, there we go. Now we are coming in. So let's just get to it, I guess. Although things have shifted just slightly, so let's point ourselves radial. And we're just using RCS to adjust our trajectory slightly, because it looks like over the course of this launch, or over the course of this transit to the moon, we have lost a little bit of our accuracy there, but there we go. No problem whatsoever. So at this point, let's go ahead and reduce our... All right, so that is what I'm looking for. I'm just trying to get our second encounter to be on the money here. So that looks pretty darn close, and then we will make an adjustment as we get a little bit closer to that. So there we go. Let's go ahead and execute this maneuver. Here we go, the Apollo spacecraft coming on in. So yeah, this is as one might expect, this is an incredibly capable spacecraft system. It's a little bit fiddly compared to some of the other things that I've been using. I would kind of like to roll my own on this one, at least roll my own service module to go with the Block 3 to reduce my overall price on that. So maybe I'll put something together, especially when it comes to like new engines and things like that, because yeah, there's only so much of this exact system that we are going to want to use. But there we go. We have fired up the engine, and we are now inserting into the orbit of the moon. So we are after crude duration of 30 days. And here's the nice thing is I don't have anything else coming up. I don't have anything else building right now. So we have 30 days all to ourselves to orbit the moon and make sure, oh no, our inclination needs to be above 160 degrees. Shoot. Okay, so I've just realized that we need to have a 160 degree inclination around the moon to complete the crewed lunar orbit with 2 contract, and we only need to do it for 2 days. So I'm thinking what I need to do at this point is to bring this orbit down a little bit. We are not going to be rendezvousing at this point. We are going to be using the Apollo to do what it does best and get this and stay in orbit for a little while. We should have plenty of fuel and everything else to make that happen. And now with our orbit that high up, I am going to abort this node execution and turn it off. So what I need to do now is I need to change my inclination to 161 degrees, I guess, at the cheapest. Woof, that's expensive, but whatever, it is what it is. So yeah, that is what we are going to do, and that is why I wanted to have this up here, because this is where we are going to be moving a lot more slowly, and that is going to be a lot cheaper to change our inclination than it would be to change it down here. That's still fairly expensive, but it's not that big of a deal, and we should be able to still rendezvous. So my thinking now is I'm going to do this, hang out here for 3 days, meet up, and then try to meet up with the Lunar station once again. And that is going to be a lot harder now, but it should still work. Like, this should still all work in theory. Because we have a lot of extra delta V, and it doesn't take that many thousand of meters per second of delta V to get back home from here. So fingers crossed that we're going to be able to do that, but I guess we'll see, because we are now heading up far out away from the moon so that we can make our inclination change. So yeah, now it's going to be try to finish this contract, the crewed lunar orbit with 2 contract, because I did not read that 160 inclination requirement. That is my fault. I feel like I saw that and I thought about it, but then I didn't actually do anything about it. But yeah, we are going to and that's going to be really tough, because we are going to need to circularize at this point as well. And I definitely did not think to put the Lunar space station at a very high inclination. So yeah, we may not be able to do both missions, but if I can do crewed lunar orbit with 2, that is going to get us a huge payout that we'll be able to use to build another Apollo rocket, right? So that should be okay, question mark. And we are just about to finish this up. And boop, there we go. Okay, so our inclination is now 160 degrees, 0.992, which is whatever. So now we need to get between these amounts. So I can now just go ahead and circularize at our paraloon. Great, and execute. Yeah, I am almost certain we are not going to be able to get back get to the Lunat station on this particular mission. We are going to have to do this on a subsequent mission, I think. But yeah, I don't actually know off the top of my head how long the what do you call it? How long the Lunat station contract is going to be open. I'm hoping that it's going to be long enough for me to try again, but I'm really not all that hopeful right now. I'm fairly certain that my realization just then of my incorrect inclination has failed that part of the mission for me. So we're going to have to go take a look at that. So I'm kind of, as we are accomplishing what we can accomplish, I'm kind of stressed out thinking about what the administration panel looks like as far as those contracts and the deadlines for those. All right, we are just about in the orbit that we have been requested to insert into. And there we go. We got check marks all the way down. Orbiting is happening. Fantastic. So now we got to spend 2.5 days just orbiting, just hanging out, chilling. Looks like we can do space television broadcast from the moon, which is just fantastic. So we are going to be having our astronauts talk and give like a science lecture or something. Because we're in June right now, June of 1976. So I don't think we're anywhere near Christmas. So it can't be the Christmas broadcast that the actual science experiment refers to. But we can talk to folks about science and about what we're doing, and about the person in control's inability to read all of their contracts at once and plan things properly. So yeah, there we go. We are going around. We still have 8 days left of food, which is just lovely. That should leave us just enough, because we are either going to, at this point, we are hurtling around the moon for 2 more days, which is going to leave us about 6 days of food. If I can do math. So 6 days of food plus the 4-ish day ride home means that we are going to have about 1 or 2 days of food buffer, which is lovely. But if that means that we're going to need to be pretty quick about getting to Lunat Station, if that is going to be possible. But I'm really quite unconvinced that that is something that is going to be possible at this point, because the inclination difference that we have put between us is going to be so great at this point that we are going to be having a pretty incredible relative velocity once we get there. So once we finish this part, I will show you what I'm talking about. All right, just 1 more hour to go, completing just 1 more orbit of the moon. Johnny Flores, Wanda Riley, Stanley Wood have gotten a lot of good science done. They finished their broadcast and they have completed their orbital maneuvers, and we have satisfied the contract. Now all we have to do is get home safely. Unfortunately, we only have 1700 meters per second of delta V. So if I were to, at this point, attempt to meet up with that station. Yeah, so if I were to wait 20 hours, we would actually intersect pretty closely. But the relative inclination means that our relative velocity, if I were to just go into that, is almost 3 kilometers per second. So we're only going 1,600 meters per second, and that's only how fast the that Lunat station is going. But because we are in such different orbits, we are hurtling past each other because of just how much of a difference this is. And so that means I am really quite certain that we are not going to be able to do the Lunat station contract here as well. But yeah, so I think that's going to be that. So the only thing that we could maybe do, the only thing that we could basically do is try to do what we did last time, where we went up really high, added a maneuver node that brought our Apolloon up really quite high. I'm talking really quite high. And then at this point, we change our inclination. And you see that's a lot, just like so much cheaper. So I could do this. Let's see what that would end up needing to be. And there we go. You can see the ascending and descending node flip around, which means that we are in the right spot as far as inclination. So that's step 1, step 2, and then step 3. Yeah, that would be step 1 is getting the inclination correct. Then step 2 would be to bring down our orbit again, all the way down. So step 3 is we got 500, we got 800, we've got another 500. And then another burn here. Okay, then burn 4 would be to reduce this to the point where we can actually rendezvous. There we go. Relative speed is... that doesn't look right. Wait, am I going into the wrong... am I retrograde? I'll bet you I'm retrograde. Oh, whoops. Okay, so another big problem that I just noticed is that I've put myself into an orbit that is retrograde to Lunette Station's orbit. So we are orbiting in opposite directions. That's why our that is the biggest reason why our relative velocity is so damn high. So that is when I just punched in 161, I probably needed to put like negative 161 or something like that, because I could have satisfied that orbital parameter in a different direction, because I was not correct on that one whatsoever. So yeah, we are orbiting in the opposite direction that we should be at this point. So it is going to be a lot harder than it otherwise would be to get to it. So I think that we are going to call that good, but let me just, yeah, because the way that I had looked at it, the maneuvers that I was plotting is about 500 meters per second to raise our orbit to the orbit of our LunaNet, and then we could change our inclination for 400 or 500 meters per second of delta V, and then lower our orbit again for another 400 or 500 to get back down to this point, 500 or 600, and at that point we could indeed rendezvous with Lunette Station, but we would not have the delta V to get back home, which is obviously an important part of this mission. So yeah, I'm going to call that a failure on my part to finish reading this contract, and hopefully the fact that we got that one mission completed is not going to completely screw us up. But, okay, so the crewed lunar orbit with 2 is something that needs to get done within 200 days, which is fine. Like, we're finished with this contract. We just need to get the astronauts back home. Oh, cool. Lunar Space Station, we have 1,300 days, so we have plenty of time. There is no stress about getting that done on this particular launch. So, that is going to get us 600,000 funds, which will be plenty to build a new Block 3 version of the Apollo spacecraft. So I think what I'm going to do is we're just going to bring this home, and then we can move on to the new technology and build some new stuff. Alright, so it is now just a matter of getting our astronauts back home, which... because we are not going to try to spend every spare bit of delta V getting into this orbit, which I've so stupidly made retrograde to the other one, then we shouldn't have any trouble actually getting home. We just have to exit on the opposite side of the orbit of the moon than we are used to. It's just such a funny thing, because accidentally targeting a retrograde orbit is something that I just do all the time, and people in the comments constantly try to be like, Justin, you did it again. You're targeting a retrograde orbit. You're going to make your life a lot harder if you do that. And it just happens all the time, and it's mostly been fine. Like we have survived so far. All right, so this took a truly alarming amount of finicking, but I have finally found a trajectory that will bring us back home. It's going to cost us 1,400 of our 1,700 meters per second of delta V, which is not that bad, all things considered, having gotten myself into a very dumb orbit. But yeah, so that is what we are going to do. So let's go ahead and execute that node. And now we're warping around, and this just tells me that we were in, like, my unthinking punching in of 161 degrees into my inclination was the bane of this mission, and is what made it so that we were 100% not be able to actually get into the encounter with Lunar Station, which is a darn shame, because I think that we had an opportunity. If I had planned a little bit more carefully, we could have spent a lot less delta V getting into an orbit that was perfectly inclined, but also facing the right direction at least, which theoretically could have gotten us into an encounter eventually. But we have not, and so we are just exploring different orbits of the moon, which is an interesting bit of science in and of itself. So that's just fine. I've also done a lot of returning from not just from the moon, but doing re-entry, I guess I should say. So I think what I'm going to do is we are going to get ourselves to the point where we touch the atmosphere, and then I'm going to just cut away at that point, because it just takes a very long time, and I don't have a whole lot to say about this particular mission. I am very excited to, once we get back and get the money, I'm very excited to see what we are going to be able to do with our new technology, because we have lots of really cool new stuff. All right, we're going to kill rotation, and just trying to figure out how I get our self back. All right, whatever. I'm just going to get out of the sphere of influence of the moon, and then I'll deal with this. And boop. Okay. So now I know if I just go prograde, I can just push prograde, and then I can increase our perigee to what we need it to be. So just using RCS, which is using the same fuel to bring our perigee up to 60 kilometers, and then we will be pretty much on our way back home. So yeah, this was a bit of a weird mission, but when I tell you guys that so I had somebody that I was talking to about this, about doing what I'm doing in this series and all that, and I was talking to them about how, like, this takes, how much time this takes and how much effort it takes to do all of these things. But I also said that I'm, like, really lazy, and so I end up messing up this thing or that thing because of my laziness. And they just could not believe that I was lazy because of what because of all the work that I was doing here. But it's things like that, like where I just kind of like banged out, like, okay, 181 degrees inclination, fine, sure, and I just punch it into MacLeod and just execute next node and just move on. So I do all this stuff and I do all this work, but then when it comes time to actually fly, like, I just kind of want to move on and do the thing. Like, I feel like, okay, I did this, I understand it, I have it, and then because I didn't actually do the due diligence of making sure that that maneuver was going to do what I wanted to do and allow me to accomplish my next objective after the initial one, that threw me off. And that's exactly the problem that I run into all the darn time, of being both lazy and also spending a tremendous amount of time on this on these things. So we are coming down now and looking at the North Pole, actually, which is really an interesting sight, and get a different perspective on the Earth as we come down over the top. But yeah, so that's kind of the, oops, hold on, everything's messed up. There we go, got the clouds fixed. But yeah, so that's kind of the the eternal dichotomy of how I play this game. Like, I spend so much time like loading and just hours and hours planning and preparing and all this stuff, but then when I actually get to the missions, I'm like so impatient to actually get on with it so I can just keep talking and finish and succeed and all that stuff, that I wind up messing up some crucial component and screwing up my mission. But it looks like we are getting away with it this time, which is just lovely. The safe return home of the crew is of paramount importance compared to literally anything else. So yeah, I think that is where I am going to leave this particular mission for you guys, at least, because I need to get them back home. But I will, of course, let you guys know if something happens, because Johnny Flores, Wanda Riley, Stanley Wood, two of our intrepid veteran astronauts, and Wanda Riley's first expedition out as an engineer in the Apollo spacecraft, doing a fabulous job so far. Separating, and we'll see you back home. All right, and so everything went just fine, and we are now back home. Johnny Flores and Stanley Wood everybody increasing their retirement time. Johnny Flores, veteran of the X-Plane program, Mercury, and Gemini, has decided he's not retiring until 1981, so he still has 5 more years with us. So yeah, it's possible to keep people for a very long time, which I find pretty interesting. And Wanda Riley jumps immediately to level 2 with all the experience that she gained around the moon. Fabulous. So contract complete, crew lunar orbit with 2, crew alive and well after the mission. Congratulations, 675,000 funds. So what I can do now is I can actually accept this one again, with the new orbit of 55 to 75 degree inclination will make things a lot easier for me to actually accomplish ahead of time. So I think we will go ahead and take this one because we have a year to do that, and I think that there's no reason we can't get that done. We can also take a look at our space station contracts, and I think I see add a new power module to Lunar station. 4 electric charge per second. I think I talked about how ridiculous that sounds. New crew to Orb Lab 1. Well, I could send someone up to there, but I think that will work for now, and we are now in a place where I am now, I have no vessels being produced. The only mission that we have coming up is the mission that we are going to send to Lunar Station to replace the one that we failed. So we've got another Apollo that we are going to be sending in that direction, so I'm going to rebuild that and send that along. But yeah, so that should do it for that, and this puts us in a really good place to start like thinking about our next objective and what we are going to be doing next, because we still have another 120 days until the Mars exploration system arrives at Mars. So there's going to be some bonkers crazy stuff that happens around then, as all of our vessels that were sent into interplanetary start getting into that position. But we are gaining tech all the time, and that is going to give us more and more capabilities. So I think that is going to do it for us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I will see you next time.